Hello detectives, and welcome to my video for June. I have been very busily working away on the first draft of the first book in my new series, The Ministry of Unladylike Activity. Now that won't publish until the middle of next year, 2022, but of course when you're an author you have to work very far ahead. And so last week I finally finished it and handed it in to my editor Nat at Puffin. Over the next week or so, Nat is going to be reading it and she's going to give me feedback on it. Now, at this stage, the feedback is really big and broad. She'll be saying things like, I don't really like this character, I don't understand what they're doing here. She'll be saying things like, they're spending too much time in the house, why don't you send them out of it for a while? Things like that. And those are things that are incredibly helpful to the book. At the moment, I have to be honest with you, the book is not very good. It's fine. There are some good bits. There's some bits I think are exciting. There's some bits that I think don't work. But I am just too close to the book to be able to really work out what is wrong and how to fix those problems. And that is what an editor does. She can look at my book from an outside perspective and give me ideas on how to make it better. So she, sometime next week, is going to give back her comments, and then I'm going to go and completely rehaul that first draft that I have written. Normally, in my first drafts, I change about half of the words in the draft, which sounds unbelievable, but it is true. I would take out thousands of words, I would change thousands of words, add thousands of new words in. Hopefully, if I've done my job as well as my editor has done hers, the book, next time it goes to her, will be almost unrecognizable. The good bits will stay, but the bits that weren't working will have been fixed. And again, I'll give that to her and she'll do a similar process again. I'll get it back and edit it again. And it's quite repetitive for a little while. I would go through maybe sort of 3 or 4 big edits like that with her before the book even starts to look like the book that is going to be published. This is something that I keep saying, keep telling you, because it seems so unlikely before you get published. When I was younger, I thought that books that got sold in shops were stories that the author had just written and it had been printed and that was it. That is not true at all. Most books go through 6, 7, 8 drafts. Most books change a lot. I don't know many books that don't really change between the time that the author hands them in and the time they're published. It sometimes happens, but it's much more likely that you will have to do a lot of work on the book. And that might sound a bit daunting, but actually it is the best thing for the story. Because I always know what I want my stories to be like in my head. When I'm writing, when I'm planning to write, I have these wonderful ideas, I have these wonderful feelings about how the book is going to be. And my first draft, it just doesn't match up to those feelings I had in my head before I started writing. But that is the joy of editing, because by the time I have done 2 or 3 or 4 drafts, finally the book that I'm looking at on my computer starts to seem and feel like the book that was in my head before I started writing. It is a really exciting feeling when that finally happens and when I finally realize that what I have in front of me is almost as good as what I was imagining. And it does sometimes take months, but it's always worth it and it always makes me really excited and proud. And I know that the 4th, 5th draft is going to be so much better than that first draft that I have just handed in, which, as I say, was fine. It had good bits, but it had bits that don't work at all. And those bits, I hope, will all be gone by the time you finally go to a bookstore in 2022 and you buy a copy of The Ministry of Unladylike Activity. So that is what I have been working on over the past few months. It was hard for me to do, it made me really tired, but I have done it, I am finished, and now I am just waiting for the edits from my wonderful editor, Nat. I can't tell you much about the plot of The Ministry of Unladylike Activity yet, partly because I don't have all of the details yet. There are some things that I've written that will probably change, and if I tell you them too soon, you'll just get confused because they won't actually be in the final book. But also because I want to wait until the perfect opportunity to reveal more about it. So while I'm waiting, there is something I can talk to you about, and that is Once Upon a Crime. Now, Once Upon a Crime, of course, is my book of Murder Most Unladylike short stories. It is quite similar to a book called Cream Buns and Crime, which came out a few years ago. That had short stories as well as essays and detective tips. This is just short stories. It has more short stories. It has 2 short stories that were previously published in the UK and Ireland, The Case of the Missing Treasure and The Case of the Drowned Pearl, and they've been collected up in here for the first time, so everyone anywhere in the world can read them. And then we have 4 completely new short stories that you will never have read before because I only wrote them during lockdown last year. One of them stars the junior Pinkertons, George and Alexander, and it's the story about them and a mysterious dog, and it's sort of their version of The Hound of the Baskervilles, one of my very favorite Sherlock Holmes stories. Then there are 2 from Daisy and Hazel, one story that is a bit about what happened after the end of A Spoonful of Murder, their Hong Kong adventure, and a bit about what happens after the end of Death Sets Sail, the last murder mystery in the series. There's also, finally, the story of Uncle Felix and Aunt Lucy's wedding, which you've been asking me about for years and years and years. That happened right at the end of Mistletoe and Murder, and I'm finally revealing exactly what happened on that day. And finally, we have a story that bridges the gap between the Murder Most Unladylike Mystery series, which of course starred Daisy and Hazel, and the Ministry of Unladylike Activity series, which is going to star Hazel's little sister May and 2 totally new detectives. In this book, we have May telling a story called The Case of the Deadly Flat, and it takes place right after the beginning of World War II, a year or so before the Ministry of Unladylike Activity takes place. She hasn't met her new friends yet. It is just her and her other sister Rose solving this mystery. But it is, I really enjoyed writing it, and it is the story of sort of how May becomes a detective and starts wanting to be the character who she is in the Ministry of Unladylike Activity. So those are the stories in this book. I am so excited for you to read them. This is actually a finished copy of Once Upon a Crime. So it's not just the cover, which I've shown you before, it's the full book. And there is, it looks beautiful. You can see these blue sprayed edges. It's got lovely inside cover printing. Lovely. It's got some very fun back material. It's got a checklist of all of the books in the series, so you can mark down which books you read and which books you haven't. And it's also got a complete timeline of all the books in the Murder Most Unladylike Mystery series, which again is really cool, and I'm very excited for you to have a proper look at that. Now, Once Upon a Crime will come out on the 5th of August in the UK and Ireland, the 3rd of August in Australia and New Zealand, and a little bit later in the summer in other territories like South Africa and Hong Kong and India. It will ultimately be sold everywhere that this Puffin edition is sold, and you will know what territories that is. You'll know which countries that is because you will have bought other books in the series that look like this before. Now, the reason why I have this copy of Once Upon a Crime, and just out of shot, there are 6 more big boxes of copies of Once Upon a Crime, is because I am doing some early signing of stock for different retailers. The book isn't out until August, but what's happening now is we are preparing all these copies. I am getting them and I'm signing my name in the title page of them. My name will go there. and they're going to be sent to lots of different stores. Now, there is one other way to get signed copies of Once Upon a Crime, and this works wherever you are in the world. A small independent bookstore in London called Round Table Books. And I am working with them on a special exclusive signed and personalized, which means I write your name in the title page, signed and personalized edition of Once Upon a Crime. They ship anywhere in the world for postage and packing, and it will vary from country to country. But all you need to do is go on to the Round Table Books website and search for Once Upon a Crime signed edition and pre-order there. I will be signing and personalizing them all in late July. And the way it works is that they are going to send big boxes of books to my house. And again, I'm going to open boxes and I'm going to take each book and I'm going to sign it with the names that you want me to sign. And then I'll post them all out to you. So you don't just get a signed and personalized edition of the book, you get it literally sent out to your house from me, which I think is quite cool. So that's another way to get Once Upon a Crime, no matter where you live in the world. Go onto the Round Table Books website and pre-order there. That will be open until the very end of July, very beginning of August, and then we'll close it to make sure that I have the chance to sign and send them all out to you, hopefully before publication day on the 5th of August. Now, the reason why I've been doing all of this early signing, why I'm strictly limiting the amount of stock that I'm signing, and why I'm not going to be doing any bookstore visits or any touring for the launch of Once Upon a Crime is for a personal reason that I announced last month and that you may have seen, and that is that I am pregnant. I'm going to have a baby in September, and from the middle to end of August until the end of the year, I am going to be taking maternity leave. I will not really be around on the internet. I will not really be checking emails or doing writing. I will be focused on my baby. Now, what I'm doing at the moment is everything I can to make sure that all of my books run as smoothly as possible and there's as little disruption as possible to what you see in stores and what happens publicly. I won't be around to be answering emails and talking to you as much in the second half of the year, but I am making sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible while I'm away. So I just want to answer a few questions that people have asked me about what this will mean for fans. The first thing to say is that all my international editions will be completely unaffected. If there are books still due to publish in your countries, I know that there are Polish books still to come, for example, and I think Italian books, and a few other places that I have signed deals for, and I know they're coming, but they're not out yet. Those have absolutely nothing to do with me. Those are all down to the publishers and the translators. So those schedules will be unaffected. Those books will still come out, and you'll be able to buy them and read them as soon as they are ready. In terms of my UK editions, of course, Once Upon a Crime will come out just before I leave. I will be doing some online events for Once Upon a Crime during the week of publication before I go. So you'll get a chance to hear me talk about this book quite a few times before I leave. And of course, it will be out in stores and you can buy it and read it while I am away. The other thing, of course, that you're wondering about is how this will affect the Ministry of Unladylike Activity, and we're hoping that it really won't. That is why I've been working so hard to finish this first draft of the Ministry of Unladylike Activity, and before I go, I will, again, hopefully have finished the second draft, hand that in to my editor, and so when I come back at the beginning of next year, I can keep working on the edits, and the book should come out pretty much on time a year after Once Upon a Crime comes out. So hopefully what you see in stores, what you see from me shouldn't really be affected. You'll still be able to read my books. I'll still have new books on the way, but I will just be stepping back from the internet, stepping back from communicating with you for a few months while I focus on my baby. And I'm really excited to do that. And I hope that I'll come back energized, well, don't know about energized, but I hope I'll come back with lots of new ideas for Ministry of Unladylike Activity and later books in the series. So that is my big news. That is what's going to be changing in my world over the next few months, but hopefully it won't really affect anyone else very much. So that's all from me this month. I will be back in July with more news. I have some nice international edition news to share with you very soon. I'll also be back with a special and exclusive reading from Once Upon a Crime and a bit more about it in general as we get closer to publication day. And I'll also be able to tell you more about my online events to celebrate the publication of Once Upon a Crime, because I will be doing a few of those. Some of them will be paid for events, some of them will be free. And so I'm hoping that as many of you as possible can join in and can hear me talk about this book. So that is what has been going on with me. That is what I'm looking forward to. I'm filming this on a day where it is very, very rainy and the windows are open. So you might be able to hear a bit of rain noise behind me talking. It's been very soothing for me to listen to as I have talked to you. So I'll be back soon. But for now, get ready for Once Upon a Crime and see you soon.